Hey, what's going on, guys? Jay Santos here, Doug's favorite line, league commissioner. Come on, man. Like, commissioner. Like,
Nope. It's just that you just don't have it, man. Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
and we're here with my main man, Dougie Fresh. How you doing, boy?
Doing good, man. Didn't watch a ton of football last week, so this could get a little weird.
I think it's always weird with you, but
Yeah.
that's just me. I think that's pretty much everybody. But yeah, what held you back from watching so much football?
Played a little golf, a little family time, Wasn't a ton of matchups I was excited about, so, took a little light weekend for me, you know what I mean?
Light weekend, the man says. Well, you missed a good game in your boys, fucking handling the Jags. But
Caught a little bit of that one, but don't get me started. It's not, I'm not all that excited. They still mostly fucking suck.
yeah, we'll get into them in just a little bit. So let's go into it. So you guys know the rundown. So we're going over best, worst surprising player performances, best and worst coaches, waiver moves, matchups of last week, the bye weeks, and then matchups for this week. So for best performances, quarterbacks, we got Jameis Winston, Dak Prescott, and Matt Ryan. So I'll start it off. When it comes to Jameis Winston and Matt Ryan, they put up really, really good stats. They have two defenses that are just porous. So they're going to be putting up stats each and every week. I think Jameis Winston is a top 10 quarterback each week, which is actually saying something because when you have Trubisky, you have Big Cock Brock putting up points, Andy Dalton, him being consistent between the top 10, I think that's an accomplishment. But I think both those quarterbacks are going to be putting up points because of their defense being so bad. And when it comes to Dak, that's exactly what the Cowboys want to do. They want to win the time of possession. They want to have Dak pull off the read option play. So when everyone's crashing in on Zeke, Dak can take those handful of read options outside, and he had over 80 yards rushing and a touchdown. Not saying that he's going to be doing this a handful of times more as the season goes on, but they were blowing out the Jags. It worked out great. So it was a good game for Dak.
Yeah, Winston, he's just, like you said, the defense is so bad, and there's like a pretty good amount of weapons around him between Evans and Djax and Godwin coming on and the two tight ends. So I agree with you there. I mean, he's just going to produce, even though he's, kind of not that good. Dak, I guess the good thing here is that he did that against what was widely considered a strong defense, like supposed to have a pretty good pass rush. He threw the ball effectively. Granted, it was mostly to Cole Beasley, which we know can kind of be hit or miss. But like you said, that's what they want to do. They want him to run the ball a little bit. He's pretty durable. I think the story there was that the offensive line looked way better than it had all year. I don't know if they're going to get Travis Frederick back at center, but if they do, then I'd say, maybe look out. Maybe they can kind of get something going. But I think Tavon Austin's going on IR. So they got kind of a lot of moving pieces here. Not really sure who's good at tight end. So, like you said, not gonna expect that week to week, but certainly could happen a few more times. And then Matt Ryan, same as Winston. The defense is awful. Good weapons. Yeah, can kind of be relied upon, but they're not going to win that many games because the defense sucks.
Yeah, I actually think the Cowboys have a 50-50 chance of winning the division because everybody else is poor.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Philly, and people like to just slurp on the Eagles. The Eagles are not very good. Wentz, he's good, I guess, but there's not really that much around him outside of Ertz and like an aging Jeffrey. So, high hopes. They won the Super Bowl, but I'm kind of in your camp. I think Dallas has as good a chance as anybody to come out of that division.
Yeah, it's going to be between the Eagles and the Cowboys. I think Wentz is up there as one of the best quarterbacks at such a young age. Not the best of the Bradys and the Rodgers, but when it comes to Goff, Winston, and the younger quarterbacks, I think he's up there as one of the best. But we're going on a tangent, so let's go on to running backs. Gurley, Gordon, and Saquon Barkley. Gordon had 35.5 points. Gordon had 34, and Barkley had 33.4. Gurley, he's the best rusher of the ball in the NFL. He had over 200 yards rushing. He's got size, speed, power, and in that offense, he's the focal point of the offense. And teams are so afraid of the other weapons that they have on the team that they really can't stack the box and stop him, because then they're just going to pass the ball and go up and down the field. But he's the best rusher of the football in the NFL. When it comes to Melvin Gordon, another focal point. All three of these guys are the focal point of their offenses. I think, though, that Gurley can still keep up this kind of point totals. Maybe not 3 touchdowns, but he can keep up, maybe 125, 175 total yards a week. I think Gordon's playing at his ceiling right now. I think he can only go down because the touchdowns probably won't be there. But with that said, he could have average performances for the rest of the season, and he'll still end up as a top 5 running back. That's how good he's been so far this year. And when it comes to Barkley, I think he's the most talented running back in the NFL. I think he's like our generation's Barry Sanders, but with better hands, which is insane. I'm not saying that he's going to get to Barry Sanders' rushing totals and that, but I actually think he's going to supplement those rushing yards with receiving yards. So at the end of the day, it may not be close in rushing yards, but maybe in total yards, it'll be pretty damn close.
Yeah, I mean, working backwards, like Barkley, I was wrong on him. Not that I didn't think he'd be good, but I didn't think he was going to be like as special as he is. Like he might go for like 2,500 scrimmage yards.
Yeah,
like, it's absurd. He's really good. Granted, the offense helps him because he can't really move it. He can't matriculate it downfield, which obviously helps Barkley. But yeah, I mean, every time he touches the ball, he's impressive. He's either getting when he runs the ball, he either gets tackled like 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage because he gets touched there every time, or he makes like 4 guys misses and gets 10 yards. Like, he's very impressive. Gurley and Gordon, I don't really get to see them play a lot, but they're obviously just unbelievable. Like, every week these guys go for fucking 28, 30 points. It's like, it's kind of not even fair. I'm a little embarrassed because I don't own these guys anywhere. I play a lot of fantasy leagues, and I've never had one single share of Gurley or Gordon, and it's not good. You kind of want to have those guys.
Yeah, they're number 1 and number 2 for a reason. For wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, 35.7 points, Adam Thielen, 23.8, and then Alshon Jeffrey, 23.4. Why don't you kick us off in regards to the wide receivers?
Sure. I mean, Tyreek, like, what can you say? This guy is so fast. He's faster than a Brittany Froelich BJ, let me tell you. He just all right?
Sorry, though. I don't know what happened there.
He's just like he just smokes people. Like, the end of the game, they're down, Kansas City's down a touchdown, like 2 minutes left, and he just gets loose on like a 40-yard fucking in route, catches it, and then there's like 2 guys with an angle, and he's like, yeah, you're not going to catch me. So he's unbelievable. It's tough to believe that he can have like down weeks like he's had, but in any kind of game where they're forced to throw the ball, he's going to have significant production. Thielen's another guy. Like, he might catch for 2,000 yards this year. Like, I don't know the exact specifics, but I don't think that's happened very, very many times. Did Calvin Johnson do that?
No, Calvin had like just under 2,000, and that's the record. It's like 1950 or something like that.
Like, what would it say about the NFL if Adam Thielen sets like the all-time receiving yards in the season record? Like, that'd be absurd.
Absurd.
He's undrafted. He played at like Middle Minnesota Community College.
Yeah.
How's that happen? How does a guy like that? How do people not know that he's really good?
That's the question. I don't
Really,
think
really,
we've ever really seen anything like this before.
it's
But go
crazy.
on.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, and I don't think he gets any kind of like the due credit that he deserves. Like he's like the best receiver in the NFL, kind of like not even close, and nobody's really talking about it. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, yeah, I
And then
agree.
Jeffrey, I don't know, like he's good, like red zone guy. There's not much else there. It's tough to get me excited about Eagles. So we'll go on.
So for Tyreek, I've said before he's the fastest player in the NFL. But on that one play at the end of the game where he caught the ball, there was like three guys like 10 yards within like closing in on him. It was the same play that the masshole poured the beer on him after he scored. But I don't like that. Just showed like how fast or how quick his acceleration is to go from 0 to 60 with those three guys closing in on him and no one touched him. Like he might have the fastest top end speed, but also he might be the quickest and the fastest to accelerate to his top end speed in the NFL. Like unreal. He's unreal. He's going to be so much fun to watch for the next years to come. When it comes to Thielen, yeah, I mean his route running. I know you said before that he's up there as one of the best route runners. So I went into the NFL film room and I checked out Adam Thielen. He is
Chris,
he's open every single play.
he shakes it.
His route running is precise to say the least. I know I'm still a Diggs fan. I think talent wise he's more talented than Thielen, from a physical standpoint. But if Diggs is getting, and Diggs is also a good route runner as well. Like Diggs gets open like 8 or 9 times out of 10, but Thielen's like a 10 out of 10. It's unbelievable. And then him and Kirk Cousins is an absolute like match made in heaven. So yeah, he could break the receiving record.
I
And
mean,
when
he's
it
on
comes to
pace, right? Through 6 weeks, he's on pace.
yeah, yeah, he's on. I'm pretty sure he's on. I'm sure he's on pace for 200 catches, probably 2,000 yards as well. But I know 200 catches. I'm joking, not 200 catches, just 2,000 yards. Yes. And then when it comes to Alshon Jeffrey, I feel a little bit the same way as you. I don't think he's a crazy good talent, but he's the best talent at receiver that they have over there. So I think him and Wentz are still going to have a good connection. They've already had a good connection since he's come back. If Wentz keeps on gaining his MVP form like he had last year, I think Jeffrey's going to be a player for the rest of the season. So when it comes to tight ends, we got Austin Hooper, Eric Ebron, and David Njoku. Hooper, it's like kind of what you said before about Matt Ryan. So the defense is really, really bad. So the skill position players are going to benefit based off of that. And Hooper is definitely someone that took advantage of not only just one injury that happened in that game, but it was two. Calvin Ridley and Mohamed Sanu got hurt in that game. So he was the second best option behind Julio in that game. So that's why he put up pretty good points. Eric Ebron, Jack Doyle's still out, and also their wide receivers just can't catch anything at all. Fucking Zach Pascal just off the street. So Ebron has been able to take advantage of that, piss poor situation at receiver over there. I don't think he's going to be putting up these kind of numbers once T.Y. Hilton comes back, which should be this week. But at the tight end position, he's still a tight end one. And David Njoku, I think this is exactly what people were waiting for him to get into the end zone, for that offense to, although they didn't have that great of a game, I think this week is when they're actually going to be putting everything together. I think Landry and Callaway have like 20 combined targets and they only caught 4 passes. Like that's unheard of.
Not good.
And you would think, you target Landry 10 times, that he would catch maybe 8 or 9 of those balls.
Come down with it.
Didn't happen, but I do think it's going to happen in the next few games because I think Baker's going against some pretty bad defenses, and I think Njoku is going to benefit from the focus on Landry. So, what do you think?
Yeah, the Hooper Scooper. Again, if anybody else misses time, he kind of finds himself in the mix. Ebron, you said it, like when Hilton's out, like Ebron might be like the best player on their team, which is so sad. Like the complete like abominable snowman nation, like not good at all. And Joku, Baker hasn't been quite as good as I kind of expected him to be. Like you said, if the matchups get a little easier for him, I just think he spreads it around a lot, and they're running the ball fairly effectively. They got like three backs who can kind of work, and that guy Higgins is still involved. There's just kind of a lot of mouths to feed. So yeah, definitely a good step in the right direction last week for Njoku. As a guy who has him in a couple spots, I'd like to see that continue and even get a little better.
Yep. All right, so moving on to worst performances. Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson, and Jared Goff were some of the surprise worst performances. Derek Carr, so he's the example. So we just said Winston and Matt Ryan have terrible defenses, but they have good supporting casts, and that's why their quarterbacks are able to take advantage of it. Derek Carr has no one to throw to or even hand off to, because I think Lynch just got hurt, and he may be gone for multiple weeks. John Gruden, who we'll get into in a little bit, like he terrible coach, terrible system, terrible team. It's just depressingly bad. Deshaun Watson, like I said on the last show, the Buffalo Bills have a pretty good defense, and it showed in this game. I don't think Fuller or Kiki QT had that great of a game. I think Deshaun.
It's QT.
It's Cutie, but I digress.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, just don't. But when it comes to Watson, this was the floor that I was worried about with him. He made some poor decisions. The offensive line over there just has him getting beat up all the time. Although he's put up some really good games, he pretty much is running for his life behind that offensive line. So because of that, he's either going to be performing well because he's going to be using his legs to run away from fucking 300-pound guys trying to kill him, or he's actually going to get beaten up. And then when it comes to Jared Goff, I think that was just game script. Todd Gurley ran for 200-plus yards, so I don't see Goff being there in worse performances much, if at all, later on this year. What do you think?
Yeah, Carr, like you're right. Like Oakland, they're just so bad. And it's probably half Gruden, it's probably half the supporting cast, and half Carr. So there's three halves there. It doesn't add up, but maybe they kind of all suck. Who cares? Watson.
Wait. The Raiders are the worst team in the NFL, right?
Yeah, I guess.
They're worse than Arizona. They're worse than the Bills.
The Bills are bad, though. The Bills are, real fucking bad.
At least they have, a kind of good defense, though. Their offense is terrible, but...
do they have a good defense, though, or does, do other teams just get, really cold when they go to Buffalo?
I mean, this was in Houston. I mean, when they beat Minnesota, that was in Minnesota.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, I mean, Oakland, okay, so Oakland's definitely the worst. That's fine. I can get on board with that.
Go on.
Watson, is it him? I think he's a little hurt. I think he got hurt in the Dallas game. But maybe Bill O'Brien's anus chin gets in the way, and he actually is not a good coach. But maybe Watson's not as good. Maybe Deshaun Watson is RG3 all over again. I think that's maybe a little bit egregious for me to say, but maybe he's not that good. He's definitely not what he was last year. I think we can agree that that's not who he is.
Mm-hmm.
He may be better than he's shown this year, by how much, and that's kind of the question. And then Goff, he'll be fine. It's whatever. The Rams are really good.
Yeah. All right. So for running back, Royce Freeman, Deion Lewis, and Jordan Howard. Royce Freeman, I think he's going to have these games. 2.2 points. Wasn't sure. I didn't look up the stats of how many rushing yards he had, but I think he only had a handful of touches. they were pretty much in comeback mode that entire time.
Yeah, they suck. I mean, Denver blows.
I mean, they're also up there as one of the worst teams.
Yeah, they're bottom 5.
I think their head coach is going to get fired within the next 2-3, maybe even after Thursday's game. Their head coach is going to get fired, or they might fire they might just need a scapegoat and fire somebody like the offensive line coach or something like that. But they're terrible. Dion Lewis, that was a terrible game as well. Marcus Mariota got sacked 11 times. I think that was more of a product of Baltimore's defense being great, though. Yeah.
In the bottom 5 in the NFL. That's how fucking bad it is.
Yeah. You're either a really good team, or you have potential to be a really good team, or you're just terrible.
You're terrible.
There's a big gap. And then Jordan Howard. So Dion Lewis, I think that was just a byproduct of the game and also of the offense. I think he's still a good player. It was just a terrible game for the offense. And when it comes to Jordan Howard, surprising that the offense, it just looks better and it functions better with Tariq Cohen as a running back. And I didn't see that coming. I thought they were going to get up, and in leads of a game, they would put Jordan Howard in to kind of, kill the clock, so to speak. But it hasn't really turned out that way. And, he did fumble the ball at the 1 yard line. So he doesn't fumble, gets into the end zone. That's an 8-point swing. And now you're looking at, 14 points. But yeah, no, I didn't see that coming. What do you think?
Yeah, as we said, Denver sucks. So going to be a problem for Freeman, who's not really involved in the passing game. Dion Lewis, I'm not really a Dion Lewis guy. Haven't been, even when he was on New England. He kind of is like a weird running back. And on Tennessee, whose offensive line is clearly one of the worst units, that's not a good situation. And then Howard, like you said, the other guy's just a better fit for the offense. This game was kind of a shootout. They weren't. I don't know that they ever trailed by a ton to Miami. So you would think that, Howard could have stayed involved, but he kind of didn't. So Cohen is clearly a more explosive player at that position. So it's going to have. I think Howard's going to have more down weeks than he is good weeks.
Yeah, I can agree with that. For wide receivers, Jarvis Landry, Corey Davis, and John Brown were 3 of the disappointing performances. You want to start this off?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Landry, we outlined it. He's getting the targets. I don't know that Cleveland's moving the ball super effectively, but it's got to get better than this, I would think. I mean, he's a top 15, 20 talent at the position, so it just can't be this bad when the quarterback play has been okay. Davis, I mean, Mariota kind of sucks. Now, granted, he gets sacked 11 times. Anybody's going to suck. Tom Brady's going to suck if he gets sacked 11 times. But I feel like this happens to Tennessee a lot. They have 2 good games and they have 10 atrocious ones. So Davis is clearly probably the best offensive weapon that they have, especially with Delaney Walker gone for the season. So I would think it gets better, but it maybe doesn't because they're that bad. And then John Brown, who did Baltimore play?
Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Well, they were up by 1 million the whole time. Probably didn't need to throw it that much. Did I see Crabtree caught a touchdown in that game?
Crabtree caught a touchdown, and Willis Snead led the team in targets and receiving yards and receptions.
Really? Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Snead could be maybe kind of developing into a Flacco favorite because Flacco has historically had a guy that he just leans on, and Snead is really sound hands, probably a pretty good route runner, and doesn't get too far down the field, which Flacco probably likes too. But I would say Brown's going to have more good games than he is games like this, and you're not the where you drafted him and what where he fits in in somebody's lineup. You're not expecting wide receiver 1 or 2 numbers out of him anyway, so. Yeah, kind of is what it is. I'll jump right into Cook, into the tight end you have listed here. Jared Cook, everybody. This is Jared Cook. That's who he is. Here's your 2 fucking points. Fuck off.
Yeah, so fuck me, right? So I don't get to talk about the wide receivers before you go into the tight end. But
my bad. I forgot. I usually go second, man. I forgot you had to play.
So, so wide receivers. I'll piggyback on John Brown. You're right. I do see Willie Snead as more of a threat than Crabtree, except for the red zone. I think Crabtree is the more the guy they're gonna turn to in the red zone. But when it comes to Willie Snead and John Brown still leads the team in, I think, targets. Still leads in air yards. Still leads in the average target
You
downfield.
just throw a new stat at me. What is air yards?
You've never heard of air yards?
I'm unfamiliar with air yards.
It's the amount of yards between when the football gets thrown and where the pass actually goes. So if it's a 50-yard, pass, then it could be like 54 yards because it's like a 4-yard drop back.
So, like, Saquon Barkley would be the worst in the league at air yards.
Correct, because he's getting negative like 3 yards on every single play because it's just like a dump off. But for wide receivers,
maybe I can use that. Maybe I can use that stat and try to acquire Saquon Barkley. But
yeah,
hey, guys, like I know he's been really good and all, but like, look at his air yards. Not good.
yeah, it's terrible. It's negative. You don't want that on your team.
They're gonna want to fix that.
You only want a positive guy. But I think John Brown's going to have better days to come. Corey Davis, he's the best talent on that offense. I just think it was a terrible game, just like with Deion Lewis, just like with Marcus Mariota. Mariota got sacked 11 times. I think Davis is going to perform more so around a mid-range wide receiver 2 to low end wide receiver 2 more times than not. And then when it comes to Landry, he's going to perform better. The Browns just had a bad game overall, and it wasn't just Landry. It was some of their other receivers. It was the running backs. It was just not a good game altogether. So I think Landry's going to be up there as a mid-range to high-end wide receiver 2 more times than not. And when it comes to Cook, it's Jared fucking Cook. Like, give me a fucking break. He's terrible.
Here he is.
Surprising performances, Mitch Trubisky, and then there goes Brocktober Fest, Big Cock Brock with 26 points. We shouldn't expect this later on. That's why I have it in surprising performances, because both of these guys aren't really all that good, especially Brock Osweiler. But Trubisky, this is his second good game that he's had, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's turned a corner from the first 3 games where he was terrible. But, the Dolphins don't have that great of a defense. The Bucs, when he threw 6 touchdowns, they didn't have that great of a defense. They're playing the Patriots this week, so we'll see what Belichick has up his sleeve against that guy. But I don't think he's going to be performing like this consistently for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Trubisky gets slaughtered this week by the Patriots, like slaughtered, like 5. The Brock Nest Monster, Pop Lock and Brockett. I don't know, man. Like,
I like
he's proven. I saw a stat actually. He's started a game for 3 teams, and all 3 of those games, like the first start he's had on each team was against the Bears, and he's won every time. Kind of a strange stat. He just owns the Brock. Big Cock Brock owns the Bears.
That's a trivia question right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's the only guy that could beat the Bears? Brock Osweiler. All right, so for running back, Tariq Cohen and Peyton Barber. Tariq Cohen scored 19.6. Barber scored 18.6. Why don't you kick us off with these guys?
Barber was a guy I was kind of on earlier this year. He's their best runner and probably their best pass catcher out of the backfield and probably their best pass protector. So, like, the fact that he hasn't produced much this year has been confusing to me. Now with Winston back, I think they were using him a little bit more through the air. I think he had like 5 or 6 targets. He ran for like 80-something yards on like less than 15 carries, which is also a pretty good number. So I would think Barber is pretty sustainable. Maybe not 18 points, but maybe the 12 to 15 range. Like, I think it's probably pretty doable for him in that offense that we outlined is going to have to be pretty aggressive. Cohen too. I mean, that defense is good, but he just fits that interesting offense that they're running. He's kind of perfect for it. So, it's a surprise for this week because he's kind of eating away at what Jordan Howard had kind of possessed. But I think going forward he could kind of be the guy. The only thing is he's pretty slight, so he may be tough for him to stay off the injury report. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't see him being the guy inside the red zone unless it's going to be like a gadget play or a pass play. They're not going to ask him to fourth and one, third and one, whatever from the 1 yard line to go. They're going to put in Howard, but yeah, we said it before. The offense looks better, more efficient with Tariq Cohen going in there. So you're right. It's a surprise this week, but it won't be for future weeks. And when it comes to Peyton Barber, he's kind of the only show in that backfield because Ronald Jones, he's been getting a little bit more playing time recently, but he's still terrible. And I think that's it in the backfield. So there's no threat. He can pretty much play every single play if the coaches allow him. He actually scored a receiving touchdown, and receiving was the biggest knock on him. Yeah, I think he can sustain, probably low end running back 2 numbers, and we'll get into him being added on a team later on. But I could see some good numbers from him. For wide receivers, Albert Wilson, Cole Beasley, and Tyrell Williams are the 3 wide receivers. Albert Wilson scored 30 points. That was basically off of like 2 long touchdowns.
Yeah, you'll never say those words again. Albert Wilson, 30 points. That will never.
I have trouble saying those 2 words together, so I hope I don't have to say that again. But yeah, that was based off of 2 long runs, so I don't see that happen again, especially with Brock, still slinging the ball over there, at least this week. Cole Beasley, that was surprising for sure because no one's performed well on the Cowboys team, scoring those 2 touchdowns. He probably is their best wide receiver, not from a talent standpoint. I think Gallup is, but he's the reliable slot guy that Dak can throw to. I think one of the touchdowns was in the red zone where he shook the slot corner in order to get open. So if they can get a handful of catches from him consistently each week, I think he's going to be fine, but not 26.6 points fine each week. And then when it comes to Tyrell Williams, I think a lot of those points come off of basically 2 plays, and they were back to back. He caught a 45-yard bomb, and then the next play it was another 45-yard bomb for a touchdown. So a lot of those points come off of just those 2 catches. But that's the threat that he is in that offense. He's the deep ball guy, and he can go up and get the ball. He only had, I think, 3 catches in that game, but it just shows he's got that high-end upside, but also, as you could tell in other weeks, he's got that low-end downside as well.
Yeah, to me, it seems like for the Chargers, it's either Tyrell Williams or it's Mike Williams. They're not going to go off at the same time. But, that one play he made all through 5 defenders and wrestling it away from him, it's pretty impressive. That earns you more targets and Phil throwing the ball up to you to give you a chance a couple more times. So, he's a nice player, has been for a couple of years, kind of flies under the radar, but gets it done. Beasley, you said it. He is their best receiver. I would even argue maybe from a talent perspective. He's really tiny, poor man's Adam Thielen. He gets open, runs good routes, sure-handed, pretty quick, understands coverages, all that stuff. So when Dallas is moving the ball effectively on the ground, when Dak is the threat to run, that's when Beasley gets opened up. And you saw it in that game. I think as the offensive line continues to improve, you'll see not games necessarily like this, but Beasley will be, I would say, from here forward, their most targeted wide receiver which I don't know that he was for the first 6 or so weeks. So Beasley's one of my favorite players in the NFL, so I hope he keeps it going. Albert Wilson, I'm not going to talk about this guy. Just go on. What?
Okay. So Nick O'Leary, I didn't even know he was still in the NFL, but apparently he is, and he was catching some of those bullets from Brocktoberfest. So it was surprising because I didn't think he was still in the league, but it won't be surprising if he's out of the league by next week. All right, so now when it comes to coaching, I put down the best coaches from this week was the Cowboys offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, not Jason Garrett. I think they came up with a good plan. The offense did what it's supposed to do. Control the ball, run the ball down the Jaguars' throat. You said that, they have arguably one of the best defenses. I think it is the best defense. So to put on that show against the defense, I think that was pretty impressive. So a lot of credit goes to Scott Linehan. And then when it comes to the defensive coordinator, they didn't allow the Jaguars to do much. Now it does help because when the offense holds on to the ball for so long, the defense can basically have their own halftime on the sidelines and game plan and just rest the entire time. And once they do go on the field, then they're going 100% on each series. That compared to, say, the Chiefs defense. Now, I do think the Cowboys defense is better than the Chiefs, but when the Chiefs are scoring points within 10 seconds, the defense comes off the field after a long drive, and then all of a sudden the offense scores within 10 seconds, and then they have to go back out onto the field. It doesn't really, help out the defense all too much. And the Cowboys are the opposite, at least as far as where they want to be. So I think that was a good game plan, and I think they were the best coaches from this past weekend. What do you say for your homeboys?
Yeah, so I'll agree with you that it's not Jason Garrett. He was still on the sideline with his a laminated piece of paper, clapping it against his one hand, smiling, brutal Jason Garrett. Here's what I'll say about the Cowboys. It was a really good matchup for them. That might sound a little strange, but they play how Jacksonville wants to play. And they got a little bit of a lead, and the Cowboys defense is really good, especially if, like you said, they're controlling the clock and they have a lead and the other team's forced to pass. The Cowboys just get after the passers. They have really good edge rushers. The linebackers, dude, when they get Sean Lee back, this is a top 3 defense in the league. Now, the back end is hit or miss. Jeff Heath, the little white safety that bombs around, he's super fast, but he looks like he's a little boy. He's hit or miss. He gets just torched in coverage sometimes. He lays big lumber hits and then is hurt because he's too small. The back end is suspect, but if it can hold up just a little bit, so Awuzie has been playing good. Byron Jones. Byron Jones is having an awesome season.
Career year.
Top 3 corner season.
Yep.
Jalen Smith and then the rookie Van Der Esch, another first round pick by the Cowboys that looks like it's pretty solid. The defense is good. The offense is what it is. If they can run the ball, if Zeke can run for 6-7 yards to carry, they're going to be in a lot of games. So, it's a good, they had a good plan, but it was also a really good matchup for them. Jacksonville's kind of reeling a little bit. They're not great on offense. No Fournette. It kind of worked out, perfectly for Dallas. And then you have worst here is Gruden. I didn't see any of the game. I imagine he didn't do a lot of things well coaching-wise, but I also don't think that there are any good players on that team.
Yeah, both. So it was terrible coaching, and it was also just terrible to watch. I think Derek Carr, the stats he's pulling a Sam Bradford season. So a couple seasons ago, I think Sam Bradford broke the completion percentage for passing. He had 70% completion, but he was also throwing 5-yard passes. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what Derek Carr is doing this year. All of his passes are going within the first down marker. It doesn't even matter if it's like 2nd and 5. Like it's going to the first down marker. Like it's bad. So it's a dumpster fire. John Gruden should just, I mean, he's already pretty much like torn up that team by trading Khalil Mack and then saying later on the season, it's really tough to find pass rushers in this league. Yeah, you're smart, John. He put Amari Cooper on the block. He put their first round pick, Joseph, the safety, on the block. I don't know. It's terrible. I've already wasted too much time talking about them, but John Gruden, you're the worst coach, at least this past week.